Ray Yan arrived mid-semester without ceremony, slipping into the elite corridors of Northbridge Academy like a shadow. While most transfer students clung nervously to their timetables or fumbled introductions, he sat quietly in the back row of Class 11A, eyes lowered, expression unreadable. His name spread fast, Rayan Khan. A perfect score on the entrance assessment. A rumored full scholarship. Worn sneakers and secondhand books. Whispers began swirling before the end of first period. He's from public school, someone muttered. Came from the city's worst district. Another added, they say his mom's a patient at Hillside Mental Hospital. Someone else whispered, no, it's his dad who's gone. Dead or jail, who knows? The elite didn't take kindly to intruders, especially not ones who threatened their top ranks. Rayan didn't flinch. He simply took notes, stared out the window during breaks, and avoided eye contact with anyone who tried to get close. His uniform was always crisp. His handwriting precise. His scores began climbing the charts. But no one knew why he was really there. He wasn't interested in blending in, nor did he care for the gold-plated trophies or honor boards lining the school's hallways. His eyes searched for only one thing, or rather, one person. And when he found her, sitting beneath the cherry tree behind the science block, laughing with a crowd of admirers, eyes bright like she had no secrets, Rayan simply smiled. He had found his target. And this time, he wouldn't be the one getting played. The hallway was chaos between periods. Polished shoes clacked against marble, laughter echoed off locker doors, and blazers flared like capes as students darted between classes. Rayan moved through it all like a ghost, quiet, unnoticed, untouched. Until a sharp voice snapped through the corridor. Watch it, freak. Rayan paused, turning just slightly. A short distance away, a boy in a designer jacket had cornered a girl against the lockers. His smirk was confident, entitled. You think being pretty makes you untouchable? The girl didn't flinch. Her back was straight, her chin tilted upward in defiance. But her eyes flicked briefly toward the crowd, and then to Rayan. That was the first time Alina looked at him. Without hesitation, Rayan stepped between them. Let her go, he said flatly. The boy scoffed. Who the hell are you? Rayan didn't answer. He just stared, steady and unblinking. Something about that gaze, calm, dangerous, made the other guy reconsider. With a scoff and a muttered curse, he turned and vanished into the crowd. Alina straightened her uniform, brushing imaginary dust from her skirt. Thanks, she said, her voice soft. I could have handled it, but still. Rayan nodded once and turned to leave. That afternoon, when he returned to his desk, he found a soft leather notebook sitting on top of his books. The name Alina S. was written in delicate silver script. Inside, doodles of cherry blossoms, lines of romantic poetry, and near the back, his name written over and over in cursive loops. It was no accident. The trap had been set. It started with a message slipped under his textbook. Library rooftop. For 30, please come. Rayan considered ignoring it, but curiosity was a dangerous itch, and he had time. When he arrived, he found Alina sitting cross-legged near the edge of the rooftop, the late afternoon sun casting a soft glow across her features. She didn't look up at first, just kept twirling a thread from her sleeve. I wasn't supposed to be born a girl, she said suddenly, voice quiet and bitter. That's what my mother once told me. Said everything would have been easier if I were a boy. Rayan said nothing. He sat down beside her, just far enough to respect boundaries, just close enough to listen. Alina sighed. They've already chosen someone. A business family in Karachi. I've never even met the guy, but they're ready to ship me off after graduation like some deal-closing bonus. Her laugh was brittle. Funny, isn't it? I get all this attention in school. People call me confident, popular, the girl everyone wants to be. But no one asks what I want. No one listens. She turned her head then, eyes shining with tears. Except you. You actually listen. Rayan's face stayed neutral. But inside, he replayed the moment from earlier that day. Alina in the cafeteria, laughing loudly with her friends, flashing the same smile now twisted by sorrow. She was a convincing actress. And Rayanne? He simply handed her a tissue and nodded once. I'm listening. And like that, she began to cry. He let her. Because in a game of lies, the one who listens learns everything. 3 days after their rooftop conversation, a small package arrived for Rayanne during lunch. No name. No note. Just a slim USB tucked inside a plain white envelope marked, "For your eyes only." He didn't open it at school. He waited until nightfall, until the city had quieted, until the light from his desk lamp was the only glow. In the tiny one-room apartment he called home. Inside the USB was a single file. Alina Underska's diary. Docs for a moment. His hand hovered over the mouse. Then, with the cold precision he'd always possessed, Rayanne clicked. The document wasn't just a diary, it was a confession booth. Day 6, he actually believed I was crying. It's almost too easy. Denial said he wouldn't fall for it, but I knew better. Every top student has a lonely heart. You just have to press the right bruise. Day 10, I left my notebook on his desk today. Bet he read every word. I hope he's obsessed. The more he likes me, the harder the fall. Denial wants proof soon. If I can get Rayanne to say, "I love you," by next week, I win the bet. Rayanne read each line with the same calm focus he used to solve equations. There was no heartbreak, no betrayal, only confirmation. She was just another player, another overconfident actor in a script she thought she wrote. But what she didn't know was that Rayanne had started his own story long ago, and she'd walked right into it. He closed the file, sat back, and whispered to himself with the hint of a smile, "Good. Let's see how well she performs when the stage starts burning." Rayanne didn't confront Alina. He didn't rage, didn't accuse, didn't even flinch. Instead, he smiled at her more often. He began answering her questions in class, lingering a little longer during their rooftop talks, offering help with assignments she clearly didn't need. Each calculated gesture was laced with warmth. Not too much, just enough to make her believe the trap was working. Alina grew bolder. She touched his arm when she laughed, looped her arm through his when they walked near the canteen, even rested her head lightly on his shoulder one afternoon during mock prep. "People are starting to say we're dating," she teased, her voice light. "Let them," Rayanne replied, eyes calm. "You don't care what people say, right?" She grinned, satisfied. That evening, while walking her home, he handed her a bracelet. Simple, silver, elegant. "A gift," she blinked, surprised. "Something small," he said. "To remember this phase of your life." She slipped it on, admiring it under the streetlight. She didn't know the inner clasp held a near-invisible mic. By the time Alina met Denial in the back of the debate hall the next day, Rayanne was listening. "Give me another week," she whispered, pressing against Denial's arm. "He's hooked. I'm thinking of faking a panic attack in front of him. That'll really make him fall." Denial laughed. "That poor loser. Maybe he'll drop out if you really wreck him." Rayanne smiled from his room, tapping the desk softly. Every play had a peak. Every actress a final scene. And this time, he was directing the show. It happened during the school's spring fair. Alina had been the center of attention all day, floating between booths, laughing at boys' jokes, posing for pictures. She wore a pale pink dress under her blazer, her hair curled perfectly, her smile brighter than the lanterns strung across the courtyard. But by late afternoon, her steps slowed. She staggered slightly behind the arts tent, collapsing onto a bench. A few gasps went up from nearby students, and someone called out, "She's fainted." Rayanne was already moving. He pushed through the small crowd, gently kneeling beside her. Her skin was flushed, her breath shaky. "Alina," he said, his voice calm, steady. "You're okay." Her fingers clutched his. Trembling. "Don't leave me," she whispered, her lips barely moving. "Please, don't go." Rayanne brushed hair from her face and leaned close enough that only she could hear him. "I never leave my projects unfinished." Alina blinked, confusion flashing in her glassy eyes, but the moment passed. The crowd murmured in sympathy as Rayanne lifted her into his arms and carried her to the infirmary. Later that night, after she had texted a soft, "Thank you" 2 hearts, and posted a story tagging him with #myhero, Rayan sat at his desk, scrolling through the saved audio. Every lie, every performance, he was archiving it all. He opened her phone's contact profile, recently synced to a cloud folder she didn't know existed. Then, he did what he always did with noise. He deleted it. There were no surprises now. No slip-ups. Not when the ending was already written. It began with a whisper, the kind that spreads like fire through dry leaves. Monday morning, every student's phone buzzed with a mysterious link posted anonymously on the school forum. Truth behind the Queen of Northbridge. Most clicked it out of boredom, some out of curiosity, but what they found stunned them into silence. The post opened with screenshots, group chat logs featuring Alina and her circle. Her words dripped with arrogance. Rayan's practically begging for attention. One more sob story and he'll fold. I bet I can get him to confess in public. Should we live stream it? Denial says if I get him to cry, I win double. Then came voice recordings, laughter, mocking tones, flippant cruelty. He's so easy to manipulate. Honestly, I'm getting bored. Should I pretend to be sick next? The school erupted. By lunch, Alina was no longer the shining senior. Her friends distanced themselves immediately. We had no idea, they claimed. She never told us the full plan. Even Denial posted a pathetic defense. It was just a prank. She took it too far. Teachers summoned her for questioning. The principal issued a formal investigation. Alina cried in the counselor's office, hands shaking, begging them to believe she was framed. But the bracelet, the gift from Rayan, had recorded everything. And Rayan? He sat in class, silent as always, eyes fixed on his notes. When asked, he said only, I just tried to be kind. The staff praised his composure. Students pitied his heartbreak. No one suspected the truth. He had engineered every piece of the downfall. And Alina? She was too stunned to even ask how. The once crowded halls around Alina had grown eerily quiet. Her friends no longer waited for her by the lockers. The gossip stopped when she entered a room, and the smiles that once welcomed her had turned into pitying glances or averted eyes. A week after the scandal broke, she collapsed in the middle of a morning assembly. Rumors swirled. Some said it was panic attacks, others whispered depression, overdose, stress breakdown. Whatever it was, Alina was admitted to a private hospital under a pseudonym, her name removed from class lists. Rayan didn't visit. Not at first. He focused instead on the one thing he always controlled: his grades. As others scrambled for last-minute prep before the national entrance exam, Rayan seemed calm. Not careless, but certain. He had studied enough to leave the syllabus behind. While others reviewed notes, he reviewed options. 2 nights before the exam, he went to see her. The hospital wing was quiet, antiseptic. He found her in a corner room, for dripping into her wrist, the bright gloss gone from her skin. Her hair was tied loosely, her eyes swollen, her usual confidence drained away. You came, she whispered, her voice cracked and fragile. I said I wouldn't leave my projects unfinished, Rayan said, pulling up a chair. She turned away. You hate me. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Alina looked at him, tears spilling. I was wrong. I didn't mean to. I know, he said, not unkindly. But intentions don't erase consequences. She reached for his hand. He let her fingers brush his, but didn't hold back. Take care, Alina. Tomorrow's the exam. As he stood to leave, she asked, trembling, Do you still care about me? Rayan paused at the door, smiled faintly, and said, You helped me focus. And then he was gone. Alina stared at the empty doorway long after Rayan had gone. For the first time in her life, silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt punishing. His visit had stirred something sharp inside her, something far more painful than guilt. Regret. She had played many people before. Twisted hearts for fun, made boys fight for her with a glance. But Rain, he had never once begged. Never once chased. And now he was the one walking away, untouched. The next day, as Rayan entered the national entrance exam hall, every head turned. The genius who'd gone quiet. The boy who had supposedly crumbled after being toyed with by the school's queen. That boy now stood taller than ever, cool and unreadable. He sat down, picked up his pen, and didn't look back. Meanwhile, Alina stayed in the hospital, untouched textbooks piled beside her bed. She hadn't touched them in days. That evening, a letter arrived at her bedside. No envelope, just a folded sheet of paper. You once asked why I never yelled at you, why I didn't fight back. The truth is, people like you don't respond to pain. You only understand distance. You didn't destroy me, Alina. You refined me, polished me until all that softness was gone. My sister fell for someone like you. He played her. She jumped from our rooftop. So I promised myself I'd never cry again for anyone who smiles while they lie. Beneath the letter, tucked between the folds, was the bracelet he once gave her. Broken. Snapped in two. And that was when Alina finally understood this hadn't been a love story. It had been justice wearing a gentle face. The morning the results were released, the entire school was buzzing. Class group chats exploded with screenshots and cheers. Students who had barely spoken all year were now flooding each other's inboxes to compare scores, joke nervously, or cry over missed cutoffs. But one name silenced all the noise. Rayyan Khan, perfect score. National rank, 1. The forums crashed briefly as screenshots of his results circulated like wildfire. Northbridge Academy's principal personally posted a congratulatory note on the school's homepage. Local news outlets began reaching out for interviews. Offers from top universities, national and international, started pouring in. Rayyan didn't reply to any of them that day. He simply walked into school, the same quiet stride, the same unbothered face. But this time, the halls parted for him like waves. Whispers trailed him, not mockery now, but awe. Makoto, a former top student from the elite stream, tried to scoff when they crossed paths. Must have cheated, he muttered loud enough to be heard. No one gets perfect scores. Rayyan glanced at him once, then continued walking without a word. Indifference, sharper than any insult. Denial, red-eyed and out of favor after the leaked messages, tried to offer a forced handshake in front of a crowd. Rayyan stared at the outstretched hand, then calmly stepped past him without touching it. Even the teachers watched him differently now, part pride, part fear. At lunch, Rayyan sat alone under the cherry tree, his favorite spot. He pulled out a worn notebook. Not to study, but to sketch. He wasn't chasing scores anymore. He had already won. And somewhere, probably from a hospital room, Alina was watching it all unfold. Every success, every headline, every moment that once could have been hers. Except now, she was just a spectator to the empire he built from the ruins she left behind. Summer bled into autumn. The leaves turned, the air cooled, and Rayyan's name continued to echo beyond the walls of Northbridge Academy. TV interviews. Magazine covers. A scholarship ceremony where he shook hands with ministers and CEOs. Social media hailed him as the boy who rose from nothing. The phoenix from the ashes. The topper with a tragic past. People loved the narrative. But Rayyan never corrected it. Because in truth, they didn't know the real story. Not the part about how he planned every move. Not the part about how revenge tasted even better than love. And certainly not the part where the girl who once played him now wrote letters she never sent. Until one day he received one. Delivered by hand. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, and carried the faintest trace of perfume. Inside, a handwritten note, trembling cursive. I still dream about that rooftop. About the day I told you my secrets. About the day you stopped listening. At the bottom, one last line. If you still remember the girl in pink, please, lie to me one more time. Rayyan folded the letter without emotion. Then, without a second thought, he struck a match and burned it to ash in a ceramic bowl by the window. He whispered, more to himself than anyone else, game's over. Try someone else next time. Behind him, in his minimalist apartment, the photo of Northbridge Academy still hung on the wall. In the frame, he stood alone, a soft smile on his face. The only person missing from the photo was the girl who once thought she could write his story. But now, he was the one holding the pen,